Right now, it can be an absolute minefield trying to work out which shoe is going to help you get the most out of your running.
Yeah, and there are so many shoes out there that the marketing just tries to make them each sound better than the other, but which one is actually right for you?
We here at the Running Channel have put in thousands of training miles, over 10 different marathons and other countless races in New Balance's current lineup of shoes to help you decide which New Balance shoe is right for you. We've ripped up the tech sheets and the press releases, and we've sent out our entire team to get real runners' thoughts and opinions on these shoes, as we know it's not one size fits all.
Yeah, we've got 6 different categories, and I bet there are some shoes in here that you've never heard of, including one of my all-time favorite running shoes. But first, we're kicking it off with race day shoes.
That was almost so perfect.
Oh, if you'd fallen off, that would have been perfect. So race day shoes, these are all about making sure you are the fastest come race day. They have the largest price tag, but they also have the largest amount of technology. So let's get into the 2 that we picked.
Yeah, so first up, this is New Balance's flagship shoe. It's the FUELCELL SUPERCOMP Elite V4. All super shoes have quite long titles. So this is what I wore for my recent PB at the London Marathon. This is the London Marathon colourway of this shoe. And it's so fast. Really, really like this one. From different testing, it's interesting. Mark, one of our testers, said it's kind of like a Goldilocks shoe. Like, it's not necessarily the fastest or the lightest or the most stable, but it's that perfect midpoint where if it works for you, it really, really works. Interestingly for him, he loved this shoe so much, but didn't really get on or kind of have enough time to get on with the back of the shoe. So actually just sliced away the kind of back and found that worked really well for him, which is a good point, that if there's a shoe that really does work for you, but it's not quite perfect, you can tweak how you tie up the laces, or maybe do a bit of DIY. Yeah,
pimp my ride. I regularly change laces on shoes when they're not quite right, but that little 1% that annoys you, come a race day, which is what these are built for, that 1% is going to eat into your head. It's important to have it just right.
It's important to talk about price as well, because these come in at a whopping £260, which is very similar to a lot of super shoe prices. But the important thing to note, because a lot of people will ask and say, surely it can't cost that much to make one shoe. That price is reflective of the amount of research and development that goes into creating the end product. It's years of research, creating prototypes, testing. Thousands of different people will have tested these shoes, and that is what culminates in the shoe that can get you a PB. So that's why the price tag is a little bit more hefty.
Yeah, and talking about the sort of materials that go into it, why this is so good for half marathon and marathons is this chunky bit of FUELCELL combined with the carbon plate. To strip away the marketing, when we say FUELCELL, what we really mean is PEBA foam. So any super shoe that you'll see on the market, they've all got PEBA foam. So the Zoom X that you see in Nike, same kind of foam, just slightly different makeup.
Now, this shoe highlights how running brands can sometimes be a little bit confusing, because whilst this is the V4, technically this is only the second version of the SC Elite, because whilst there were 2 versions before that, they didn't have the SC Elite name.
Yeah, but let's keep it simple now with the other shoe. So if you're looking to go fast on race day, anything shorter than a half marathon, this is the New Balance SUPERCOMP Pacer V2. So
you might think that this shoe looks a lot like the SC Elite V4, and that's because it's basically a little sister to this shoe. So it's the same foam, just less of it, same carbon plate, same design. It's essentially a lightweight version of this shoe aimed at going fast over the shorter distances.
And this upper is super breathable. So really, really fun to run really, really fast in. And what I find really interesting, proper geeky moment, is that this shoe's stack height is 32.8 millimeters. So not the average size that you would normally get, so a 35 or a 40, because it's actually designed with a female elite US runner in mind, so it was developed with her rather than a US male 9, which is what basically every other shoe is designed and then built up from. And that is nerdy, but I find that pretty cool.
That is very cool.
Long run shoes. Now that sounds super confusing considering we just covered race day shoes, which are long distances, but there is a key difference. Imagine a scale right now, which is speed and comfort. When you think of race day shoes, that is more towards the speed element rather than the comfort element. And then we come to these, which are the long run shoes that has the comfort bit dial up a bit more versus the speed bit.
Yeah, it's definitely important to practice in your race day shoes, but if you are banging out the long runs week after week, this is where you want to come with these. So we've got 2 shoes from New Balance that we really think fit the bill. Firstly, we're going to go for another one from their SUPERCOMP lineup, which is the SUPERCOMP Trainer V3.
Probably one of, if not my favorite road shoe that New Balance make. It is a shoe I've actually run quite a few marathons in, this version and the version before, because the foam is just not quite as poppy and not quite as springy as the SUPERCOMP Elite, which is great for a heavier runner. So it doesn't feel as unstable when I'm running versus the SUPERCOMP Elite, and it's still getting the benefit of a carbon plate, which even for a back of the pack, middle of the pack runner like me, is great to feel.
And now onto a New Balance kind of bread and butter shoe. Doesn't have a carbon plate, and this shoe, I was really excited about the update for this one.
Yeah, I have to admit I was not a massive fan of the previous iteration, but when this came out, oh yeah.
Yeah, so this is the 1080 V14. So a lot of us at TRC have tested this shoe, myself included, and really, really love the updates for this. It's got quite a nice wide toe box. It's a really kind of plush, comfortable feel when you're running in the shoe. I'd describe it as a great holiday shoe. If you're packing your suitcase, you've got space in it for one shoe. This is something that can do any session that you want to throw at it, including your long run. So it's just a great all-rounder. One concern was that you do have quite a lot of exposed foam, but actually they've put rubber in enough places that it is really durable as well. And this shoe fits into multiple categories, so we will come back to it later on. Okay, so now we're going to talk about support shoes, which might be something you've heard of before. Essentially, it's a shoe which can help if you overpronate or if you're a bit flat-footed or your arch rolls in. The best way to find out if you do need a support shoe is to go and get your gait analysed. And essentially, if you do need one, it gives you a little bit of artificial help in order to correct your running form and help avoid injuries.
Okay, so first up we have the VONGO, such a weird name, the VONGO V6s, and essentially they are a support version of the 1080. So they are a really cushioned stability shoe aimed at that everyday runner that needs a little bit of support. They have a plate, don't get too excited. That isn't the kind of plate that we just talked about in the race day shoes. This is another support element aimed at helping you keep as stable and as efficient as you can while you're running.
And another thing to consider as well is towards the end of a run might be when your form drops and you need that little bit of stability. So actually a lot of us at TRC will go out in support shoes even if we don't necessarily need them all the time, because it is there to kind of correct you when you need it, which can make a huge difference, especially when you're tired, you're sinking down, your ankles are rolling all over the place.
Everything looks awful. I've seen my race day photos, I know what that looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then we have the 860s, which are essentially a support version of the 880s. And again, they're kind of a little sister to this. And they are just a great everyday trainer for the people who need a little bit more stability, but you don't want that high amount of cushioning that you'd get from the VONGOs. While they definitely look like stability shoes, the upper is really breathable. They're just a great all-rounder shoe if you need that extra support. And if you also just want to commute in a pair of shoes, you're onto a winner with that colourway.
Right, now on to tempo shoes. These are the shoes that you want to use when you want to go really fast. So you can use them for your tempo runs, threshold runs, interval sessions, and on the track as well.
Yeah, so if you're going to want to build out that shoe rotation and you want something that goes super quick, then these three shoes are the ones you're going to look at. But they all have their own use case. So I'm going to go straight in with the PROPEL, which I think might be my favorite name for a shoe because it literally does what it says on the tin. But this is a cheaper end of the tempo lineup that we have from New Balance, but it is also just a great shoe. Even though tempo shoes can sometimes feel a little bit unstable, when we were reviewing these, we found that it was really stable, it performed really well at pace, but it also did perform pretty well at slower paces and more of your kind of shorter, but still quite quick runs.
Also, this shoe has a plate. So it's got a TPU plate rather than a carbon plate, but actually what you might find is that makes it more durable, as a plastic plate will traditionally last longer and will perform better for longer than a carbon plate, but a carbon plate is stiffer and so might go faster. So that's something to weigh up. And that brings us nicely onto a shoe that we've mentioned before, the SC Pacer V2. So again, really fast shoe. The only thing to consider is that if you do want to put in a lot of miles in interval sessions, tempo runs, this one might be slightly less durable than some of the other alternatives that we've got here.
Yeah, and then last up is the Rebel, your face is a mess shoe. It's not actually called that, it's just called the Rebel.
That would be such a long title.
Just see it the whole way on the screen. And while it is advertised as an everyday trainer, which is a category we'll go on to later, we think this performs best at speed. So it has basically the same look and feel as the SC Elite because it has the same technology, but minus that carbon plate. So it's not got that stiff poppy feedback that you get from a carbon plate, but you still get that speed from this lovely, lovely chunky bit of foam.
It's actually quite weird if you turn it over and you've seen the SE Elite V4 first, you're like, they have like filled it in with foam, but I have used both in training and you can tell the difference if I pick those ones up first because they are just so light and they feel really light and fast on your feet as well. Now, back in the day when Andy was racing competitively, these were probably the main shoes in the market that he was wearing, the daily trainer, maybe a racing flat, but actually these were there. And they really don't get enough love these days because these are the proper workhorses that get hours and hours and hours of miles in them in order to get to race day.
Yeah, and New Balance have, I would say, some of the OG everyday trainers, these two right here. So they've got the 880s and the 1080s. Essentially, we've already covered the 1080s, but while I didn't love the previous version, these just perform so well. The previous version, anything more than a plod, and I really struggled to kind of get any pace up. But with these, I went away for 3.5 weeks to California and took just these pair of shoes with me and did every single session I needed to do. And they loved everything I threw at it, apart from maybe my daughter's throw up. They didn't enjoy that.
No, right, don't worry guys, these are mine. We haven't let James's shoes in the room.
Whereas the 880s are what I would say is the shoe you maybe ran in 5 to 7 years ago. This is definitely the shoe I would run everything in back in the day, where it was one shoe, fit all, you do race day, you do everything with it. And yeah, it's not the sexiest shoe, but it has that really familiar feel. If you're coming back into running, it has that kind of wide toe box, it has the 8mm drop, which most shoes back in the day had, and it's just a good, safe pair of hands if you're wanting one shoe to get out and run and you know that you can rely on it.
So those are the OGs, but now we have even more shoes on offer, and this is the More. And no, I haven't lost my mind. This is literally called the More V5. Really new shoe, and people are falling more and more in love with it with every iteration. I really enjoyed testing this version. It's got lovely grip. It feels really plush, like quite a lot of cushioning when you put your foot into the shoe as well. So you might need to size up half a size so you don't get that tight fit. But it feels lovely, really nice and cushioned. It's become a bit of a kind of influencer celebrity shoe, obviously.
That's why you wear it?
No, not at all. If you want that kind of fashion trainer to kind of feel fashionable when you're running, you can tell this is not my remit. But the colourway, really nice. I love all of the different colours in them, and the stack height as well makes it really, really nice. And now we should come on to the newest shoe, which is the BALOS. Now, James actually got to see this a year before it came out, and then it came out.
And I was disappointed.
Oh no, why?
So I saw the leaks of this shoe and I genuinely have never been as excited about a shoe as I was with this, because I thought it was going to come with a plate in it. I love the fresh foam, so different foam from the race day shoes to these shoes. When it works, it really works. And with a carbon plate, I was like, I think this is my race day shoe. This is going to be amazing. Super aggressive rocker. It looks freaking cool, but it didn't come with a plate, and I just feel let down by New Balance.
No, okay, I am going to completely disagree with you there. I love this shoe. It's such a nice daily staple. Again, it is fashionable. If you want to look good, feel good, run good, as Tom would say, and you want one shoe to do it all, this is it. It's lovely. It's got so many nice little touches on it. It does come with quite a big price tag, but you know what? I wore this, I tested it, I went to a run club, I fell flat on my face, tripped over something, and I looked pretty good whilst doing it. So for me, that's enough in this shoe. So it is like when you're exploring a daily trainer, definitely don't discount this one.
Right, so keeping it simple, we're gonna put these into as simpler categories if you want. If you're coming back into running, you want one shoe that you know you can rely on, 880s. One shoe to rule them all, Lord of the Rings style, 1080s. If you want a mile muncher, you want the More. And if you want to buy the BALOS, then I think you should just buy the 1080s and save 40 quid.
No, 100%. I mean, you will be choosing between these two, but they are both phenomenal shoes. And I feel like we have gone through so many shoes right now. I feel like I'm at kilometre 31 of a marathon. So let's take a bit of a break and go to Past Me. If you are finding this video useful, then please do hit like and subscribe. Plus, we want to do more of these in the future. So which other brands would you like us to do this for? let us know in the comments. Now, we're about to all go and run in the mud, so let's find out which New Balance trail running shoes we should be using. Over to you, future Sarah. Thanks, past Sarah. Right, now we're on to trail shoes, which probably need very little explanation. Essentially, when you want to leave the tarmac and head out onto the trails, these are some of your options.
Yeah, and New Balance have kind of filled every category I would want from a trail shoe, including what I think is probably my favourite shoe that New Balance have ever released.
Oh, well, let's definitely start with this one. It is the VENYM, which has a very kind of scary name, but actually this is more of a hybrid shoe. So if you do want to do some running on the tarmac and on the trails, this is a really solid option. But you will see that it also has FUELCELL, which is the foam that are in their kind of competitive racing shoes, which is really cool to have that foam in a trail shoe, but combined with some really aggressive lugs in the bottom, you've got grip and super plush responsive foam.
Yeah, I have to be honest here, it is one of the shoes I have lusted after testing. Apart from, New Balance, why did you do this? Why is that not straight?
I quite like it. It's kind of like lovely off-centre, nice vibes. The only thing that from testing this that people did point out is that it's not the kind of most close to the ground stable shoe. So if you are going on more technical terrain, obviously trails, there's such a mix. You could be on grass in your local park run, or you could be up on the mountains. If you are up on the mountains, a couple of things to consider. One, it is a little bit rocky, but also two, it's got a kind of knitted upper. So if you are someone that constantly catches the top of your foot on rocks, for example, just be aware that that might not have the durability for you. But let's talk about the next shoe, also if you want to go fast.
Yeah, if you want to go super quick on the trails, then this one is for you. It's the SUPERCOMP Trail. So still in that series that we've kind of covered, using the FUELCELL foam, using that plate, using VENYM, which is like the pinnacle of grip in my eyes, and have created a super quick shoe. It definitely looks more like a road shoe, I would say. So you're not getting as much protection. So again, like you were saying, if you are someone who maybe clunk your foot quite often, which is what I tend to do, you might need a bit more protection. But it was a shoe that in reviewing lived up to its bill. It was fast, it was stable, and it felt like you could go and go and go.
With grip as well, I recently raced a half marathon where it was just on that kind of like loose, dusty ground, and a shoe like that is so perfect because you have the traction and the grip and the plate, so you kind of don't sacrifice performance, but also the kind of technical need for grip as well. Right, now let's talk about another shoe, which a lot of people might just wear for fashion as well, but it is equally an incredible trail shoe. So this is the More Trail V3, which is the trail version of the More V4, which is a kind of daily trainer road shoe, which is what we talked about earlier, which is the newer iteration, which is the More V5. Still
so you
with
can
me?
see why we make these videos, to make it more simplified.
But it's quite cool if you do have a shoe that you really like that is your road shoe, and then you go, oh, I want to go trail running, then just see if there's a trail equivalent, because then you get the same kind of foam, the upper, it's just built for the trails. Now, one thing that people have said from testing this is that it has such a high stack height. If you are looking to do really kind of technical, rocky, mountainous trail running, this might not be the best shoe because you are quite high up, so it does feel a little bit more rocky and unstable. But if you're someone that wants lots of cushioning for their trail running, then this is a really great shout.
Yeah, fantastic shoe, but it is a chunky boy. Okay, and finally, I feel like I've left the best till last. It is my favorite New Balance shoe. This is obviously not my size shoe. It is the HIERRO V8, and it is a everyday trainer that I have used in a lot of different situations. Again, it has that lovely VENYM grip. I've run in, I think, 3 iterations of this shoe, and every single one of them I've loved. I've run in mountains, I've run park runs, I've run 50Ks in them, and it just stands up to everything. It's got great toe protection, which it even says on there, toe protection.
This was the shoe that made me want to get into trail running, because I remember Tom and Andy had a version of these a few years ago when I first joined the running channel, and I was like, what's that? And they were like, it's for trail running. And I was like, huh, how do I get one of them? Because like the design is just really cool. Like the classic telltale sign that it's this shoe is this kind of back element, which they've had in kind of every iteration, and I just love it. It's really cool. Whew, well, that just felt like we ran an ultra marathon, but there you have it. For whatever run you are going out on, hopefully we have picked a New Balance shoe that will fit that run and will help you to start building out your shoe rotation. Now, if you have got this far, well done, legend. Can you now drop a shoe emoji in the comments so we know who the really dedicated ones are?
Yeah, and if you are looking for a super shoe that isn't a New Balance shoe, you can watch this video here where Sarah and I run through the best super shoes of 2024. Right, which one's gonna take home? I'll take these.